My stream queens isn't loading. Are we here? Hello? Can you all hear me? Can you see us? We're live. Perfect. Hi everyone. Welcome in. We have some amazing people here. So what we're doing today is we are talking about drag visibility for everyone. We have trans and AFAB on this panel and non-binary. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of things that we've experienced, gatekeeping, what we love about drag, everything. So, Krem, would you like to introduce yourself, pronouns, where we can find you, who you are, how long you've done drag?
Yes, my name is Krem Patel. I've been doing drag for over 6 years now, probably almost 7 at this point. Um, my pronouns are she, her. Anything else? You can find me on Instagram at Krem Patel, and then Twitter is _Krem_Patel.
Okay, thank you. And Lesbiana.
Hello, everyone. You saw me a couple panels ago. I'm back. My name is Lesbiana. I'm a drag king streamer. You can find me at the same name here on Twitch, also Instagram, Twitter, all the above. Oh, my pronouns are they, them.
Okay. Annie.
Hi, my name's Annie Crevice. I'm a trans drag queen streamer from Melbourne, Australia. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. And I've been doing drag for a little bit over a year now and streaming for about 3 years.
Thank you. And Venus.
I'm Venus Envy. I've been doing drag for about 5 years. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on all social media at Venus Envy Drag, but primarily on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I do have a Twitch account. I'm a Twitch affiliate, but I don't have a working computer other than my work laptop at the moment. So I'm not streaming, but you can find me here as well.
Make sure to follow so when she does stream, you can be there. Thank you, Venus. And I'm Inprayer. I'm an AFAB drag queen on Twitch. I've been doing drag for almost 5 years in February. I have 2 cats, and this is Hadley. He's our mod. Oop, that's not a mirror that I just dropped. And so yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, which is surprising because I know we're streaming on here, and Twitter. So let's get started. So Krem, what inspired you to do drag, and how did you discover your drag name?
I started doing drag, I think, shortly after I stopped attending acting school. So I went to the American Conservatory Theater for theater acting. I was there for about a year. That was after I graduated from college. And I really wanted to do something like entertainment based, but I really hated listening to people. Like I hated directors. Like I didn't want to listen to them. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to look like what I wanted to look like. I didn't want to say the lines that were written. Like it was a lot of that. And when I discovered drag, I had always really like known about it because, you know, like we're like younger, we've like always grown up with like RuPaul and stuff, but like, you know, really getting into it and like, you know, watching a lot of John Waters and stuff. And I was like, women do drag. And I Googled it and I lived in the Bay Area and it's like, yes, and San Francisco is the place where a bunch of them are. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I started experimenting with that. And Creme Patel is a name that kind of just came to me and I was like, no, that's really stupid. I really wanted like a play on like a femme fatale because I used to be really shy and introverted. So I wanted something that was like the opposite, which was femme fatale. And the first like pun that I came up with was like creme fatale. I was like, that's really dumb. I kept looking for a name, and like 3 months later, when I like was tired of giving people like my real name in drag, I was just like, you know what? It's just creme fatale. It's creme fatale. Just go with it. But now I think it like really encapsulates everything that I am.
That's amazing, and that's because you like you said, you're in the Bay Area, so that's really awesome that you could find people that are in the Bay Area that do drag, especially women, because it is not as simple to find them out there. Les, how did you start doing drag, and how did you discover your drag name?
I think I might have touched on this a couple of panels ago. but it was when I was volunteering for an organization called Girls Rock, primarily in the DC area. Um, it was just one of the activities, workshops that we were doing, and we were doing kind of like the opposite um, kind of makeup. And so I just did it for the first time, and then I just discovered that this is what I wanted to do. And Lesbiana was not my original drag name. I think I might have gone through probably two other names. Um, One was Ace Cultura, which is kind of like I'm not sure exactly where I got the ace from, but cultura is means culture in Spanish. So I wanted to kind of bring in my culture into my drag, which I am still trying to um, discover and figure out how to do that.
Thank you. Annie Crevice, what started you doing drag and how did you get your drag name?
Um, I've been a performer for a number of years. I've worked primarily as a spoken word artist. I've been doing that for 10 years, so I've always really loved performing, and I've done drag, I guess, like like for costume parties and stuff like that for a while. Um, and then I guess in the last like year and a bit, I started doing drag primarily at a bar like not too far from me. One of my friends did drag for like his Bucks party. He wanted to like try out drag, and then I went to the bar in drag as well with him. And then it kind of started this whirlwind thing. And in the past year and a half, I've been exploring my gender identity, and I've been using drag, I guess, as like I really like attention, and it was like a safe, like positive, encouraging space for me to like work out that I was trans, and like work out how to dress all pretty and stuff like that. So um, that's kind of what got me into drag in the first place. But then my love of performing kind of has kept me there. Uh, I got my drag name from a friend. Like a couple of years ago, we were at a party, like I think it was like a fundraiser for a same-sex marriage thing, and my partner had done the like black swan makeup that I sometimes do on my face, and we're dancing around, and Lenny Kravitz's "Fly Away" came on, and I started like dancing and doing like this lip sync like sporadically to Lenny Kravitz's song. So one of my friends go to me, "Oh, if you did drag, your name should be Annie Crevice," and it fits because I love a slutty pun. It kind of fits my personality. So
You love a good
uh,
crevice, is
yeah,
what
I
you're
love
saying.
a good crevice, a deep crevice. So uh, yeah, when I actually started doing drag, I was like, that name seems to fit. And I don't really um, kind of believe in like the idea of someone giving me a drag name. I feel like blessed for that to be bestowed upon me, and I kind of loved it so much that I legally changed my name to Annie. My legal name change is about to go through hopefully this month. So yeah.
Yay, congrats. Venus Envy, um, what started you doing drag and how did you discover your drag name?
So I don't remember how exactly I first got into drag. I was a teenager. This was a long time ago. I think RuPaul's Drag Race was maybe on season 1, but I didn't really discover it till season 2. I had just always been in love with the art form, and I would look up any single piece of drag media I could find. I was obsessed with the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Party Monster, especially. And then when I was 18 and I moved to Orlando for college, I started going out to the clubs. I started working at the clubs. I made friends with a lot of the local queens, and similar to Krem, I Googled one day, can girls be drag queens? And came up with the Wikipedia page for faux queen, which was like the more commonly used term at the time. I tried it at 18. It didn't read as drag. People didn't respect it as drag. And I stopped until I was 23. And then when I started the second time, I just kept going. I got my drag name Venus Envy because I was actually a psychology major in college. And within the psych major, Sigmund Freud is kind of like a running joke. He's like a meme. So I loved Freud jokes, and I named myself after his theory of penis envy, which is essentially the idea that women's behavior is rooted in our inferiority complex to men. So I thought that making a pun based on that would just be perfect for a female drag queen.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. So what got me started into doing drag is I actually don't know. I know I'm 26. I almost said 24. Obviously, I don't know how old I am apparently. I grew up with like the YouTube era like becoming like a big thing. And so I always wanted to get into costumes and makeup and I wanted to like change my face and I always loved theater and stuff, but I am not a singer. I am not like a dancer or anything. Just it's not my thing. So I never really like got into those things. And so I remember I was working at a place called Hickory Farms with a bunch of local drag artists. And I told them, I said, I would like to do drag, but I can't because women don't do drag. And one of the people there was like, you can do drag. And I was like, and they're like, you should join this competition that was in the Portland area. And I was like, oh, I'll think about it. And I had like some kind of snowball effects of some toxic stuff that I was working on finding myself again and had started doing drag. I had a different name than my drag name. It was like Queen Allure Doll. I don't even know. I just love Queen and I love doll and I love like being doll and I used doll for like my, you know, kind of a pin name kind of thing. And then it was like 9 months later, I was working at Hickory Farms again and we were pushing a dolly. And I remember running into something and someone said, oh, watch out for Destructo Dolly. And I was like, wait a second. That's a name. And I am a hot mess. I am like chaotic. And I don't know if you all have seen me be chaotic, chat, but I am a little crazy. So I settled with Dolly Destructo. I don't really talk about it much on Twitch because my Twitch page is Inprayer and kind of mix of drag and my, you know, real life self. And yeah, I don't really know what caused me to like starting to do drag, but I just was like, I want to do drag. That was kind of my drive for that. So getting into finding your drag self, coming out to people about that or talking about it in your real life experiences. How did family, friends, you know, we can go into bars and clubs, and I know some people haven't done clubs for drag, so we can talk about internet, how that's been affected and coming out to family and friends. And Krem, would you like to start with that? What was your experience with coming out to your family, your friends, and how did people react in real life for you?
I actually started doing drag when I lived at home with my parents, which was like part of the drive, which like made me want to do something to like get me out of my parents' house. But I was living in the Bay Area. Obviously, San Francisco is like crazy expensive. So that was like a not possibility at the time for me. And I was like freshly out of college, like working at Starbucks. So I started like actually just doing it at home, like in my room. And like my parents would like see me all the time. And at first it was like really weird because they were like, what are you doing? You know, like they are like, they're immigrants, like they don't really have a frame of reference for like drag. So to them, it was like really weird. And like the more that they got like, you know, into like me doing it, the more that they would be like really interested in what I was doing and like going out to the clubs. At that time, I didn't really have like a lot of like friends. It was like that weird period of like, you know, you're not friends with your high school friends anymore. And then you have like college friends, but like after you graduate, you're not really close with them. So I never really found like friends that I like actually connected with enough to like, you know, like be with all the time and talk to all the time. So I got those friends by starting to go out to the clubs in San Francisco. And that's where I made like my lifelong friends. So it was kind of like a, you know, touch and go a little bit with my parents, but like now they're like my biggest fans. Like my mom like sends me like pictures all the time at Goodwill, like, can you use this for drag? And it's like,
I love that.
yeah, I'm like, maybe not now.
Yes.
Yeah, but she's so into it. My dad watches my YouTube channel, which is like weird to think of like this big Mexican construction worker like watching a drag makeup tutorial, which is
Yeah.
you can't even picture it, but he'll like reference things that I've said in it. It's just yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yep. My dad's kind of into my drag life, so I've definitely experienced that. Like I have a plastic bag, so they make fun of my like they're like, "Oh, plastic bag, that's kind of like my drag thing." And Yeah, so I understand the whole reference thing. And that's amazing that you have a lot of support in your family with that. Les, what has been your experience? Internet personnel, family, friends, reaction?
Um, let's see, I guess I can start with my friends. My friends have been very supportive. I have two really, really good friends that have helped me. They have recently helped me with some of the performances that I've done, especially the one for the Femmes and Thems
It
show.
was amazing.
Um,
Eminem beard is
they
incredible.
they like to enable my craziness and crazy ideas. Um, but similar to what Krem was saying, I too have immigrant parents from Mexico as well. And so yes, they didn't really have any references, like you had said, to drag or to even gender bending in a way. Um, and so I guess I don't think I ever really came to tell them. They just kind of figured it out, like on Facebook and stuff. Um, there's been a couple things of like my mom just saying like, I don't know about that face, and I'm like, what do you mean my face? What's wrong with my face? It's like, you got a little too much there, and I'm like,
Never too much.
That's how it's supposed to be, mom. Yeah.
Yeah, because drag's very like that. That's one of the things I love about drag is how dramatic it is. You make your eyes bigger. You have these crazy eyelashes. Sometimes you can add costumes and things like that. So there's never too much, you know. Annie, what has been your experience with drag for family and friends? 'Cause I know you had just started and started transitioning around that time as well. How has that affected your life? Club scene, internet.
So, like, firstly, in regards to friends, I have like a very kind of close knit group of like queer friends. That obviously I started doing drag inspired by one of my friends, Adam. And they've all been like super encouraging and supportive. Like, they come to all of me and Ariella Grande's shows. Like, we perform together at Pride of Our Footscray together. So our friends are like super supportive or whatever. But for the most part, my family are like pretty supportive. Like, I have three sisters. One of them's gay. Like, they're all pretty supportive. But I guess I had to come out as a drag queen and as a trans woman pretty much simultaneously, which was interesting. And a bit of a shock to them. Like, I live in Melbourne and my whole family lives in Sydney, so they haven't seen me in person since I've transitioned. I guess they've seen photos on Facebook, and like videos and stuff like that. My dad is pretty supportive. Like, he like basically doesn't care. Like, he calls me his daughter and stuff like that. My mum kind of took a little bit longer, I think, to get around to understanding it and stuff like that. It's more my extended family that's they don't really know much about what I do or like why I do it. So I've kind of been using COVID as an excuse to avoid them. But apparently my nan has seen my videos, like my This Is Me video. Like,
it's a beautiful number too.
And like, apparently she really loves it. And I think like by seeing some of the videos, like, my family have begun to understand it more, and like why I do it and stuff like that. Yeah, like, and some of my other extended family, like my aunties and stuff, are pretty supportive now. Like, yeah, they like all the stuff on social media, and like my auntie apparently wants to give me makeup tips, which will be interesting. I'll be like, thanks. Yeah. Uh, yeah, but for the most part, it's been okay. Like, I haven't had anyone being hostile to it. It's just more like, I think my family aren't used to having even queer people around at all. Like, my sister coming out as gay a couple of years ago was like the first like queer person to like turn up to Christmas or whatever. I guess because they didn't see me and my partner as queer, even though we've identified as bisexual for like the 10 years or whatever we've been together. But like, visibly seeing queer people in my extended family is like a new thing. which will be interesting when I actually do have to go see them in person. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad that you've had some support from your dad, especially because I feel like sometimes that can be a little bit rougher with them sometimes, and for parents as well. That's not always the case, of course, but sometimes that can be the experience. So yeah, I'm really glad. Thank you for sharing. And Venus, what has been your experience?
So in high school, I didn't really have very many friends. I was just very shy. I was quiet. A lot of people in my grade level actually thought that I was mute because I just didn't talk to a lot of people or talk ever. I decided when I was moving to Orlando for college that I wanted to completely change my personality and reinvent myself. So like I said, as soon as I was 18, which I mean I was 18 when I moved there, I would go out to the club 7 nights a week. Um, I would I was a lot more like wild, I guess you could say, than I was now. And I met all of my friends by going out to these clubs. So obviously my friends were all cool with it. Most of my friends at the time were queer people, and a lot of them actually started drag themselves over the course of our friendship. And I would be the one doing their makeup, contouring their chest, letting them borrow my clothes and my jewelry, and recording their shows for them. So I was always kind of like a background character in the drag scene. I was helping out in dressing rooms. I was running music to DJs, and I was just always kind of part of it, quietly observing for like years before I started doing it myself. So ultimately, when I did start doing drag myself, it just kind of, I guess, made sense to everyone around me. And I think that that's part of the reason why I was so easily accepted in my local drag scene as an AFAB queen, was just because they all knew me, they were all used to me, and they knew that I knew my history, and they knew that I knew what I was doing. Um, as far as my parents, so I had moved out at 18, so I didn't live with them at the time. But I would always show them videos of my friends because it was like my job to be in the audience recording the shows. So I would always, every time I saw my parents, show them videos of my friends performing. And one day I had been doing drag for maybe like a month or two at that point, and they had no idea. I slipped a video of myself in with the videos I was showing them to see if they would like recognize that it was me. And it took them like a minute, but then they did realize it was me, and they were kind of like, "Oh, that's interesting. Didn't know that was a thing." And the general response, because like I come from a typical Jewish family, education is extremely highly valued. So their response initially was, "You're in Orlando to go to school. Maybe you shouldn't be spending so much time at the clubs. How is doing things like this going to affect your ability to get a job when you graduate? Like, are you sure this is something you should be doing?" And they were never like not accepting, they just weren't completely about it. But after I had been doing it for a couple years and had kind of gained popularity on social media during my like second or so year of doing it, they definitely came around. My mom is one of my biggest fans and has seen me perform. My dad has never seen me perform, but he'll like send me articles on Facebook about like drag queens, and he'll like, I didn't think he really liked what I did, but then I'll hear from his coworkers that he shows them pictures of my Instagram. And then I found out in a phone call with him that he watches my TikToks and made an account just to turn notifications on, just to watch my TikToks. So I just have very supportive friends and family, and I actually have a trans brother who's getting into drag.
Yes.
And I have a lesbian sister who is, I would describe her as a club kid herself in Atlanta. Her name's Kiki. So my parents really hit the jackpot with us.
That's amazing. Oh my God, I got the chills from all that just now. That's incredible. I'm really glad that you had really good support, and that your family, was like, this is something that is amazing and beautiful, and it's art, and they fully support that. So my experience was a little bit different, I think. So when I started doing drag, it wasn't very much out there. I think there was like Crimson Kitty was kind of more of like the bigger AFAB. And I was really excited to get into drag. And I remember telling friends and family, and they said, "So are you dressing up as a man dressing up as a woman, or how does this work? They had like some really interesting questions, and I was like, no, I just dress up in drag queen makeup, and I was like, it's just more dramatic, like kind of more feminine things. I had to explain that, and I remember I had someone tell me that I was better than this. They're like, you're better than this, and I was like, what is that even? I don't even know what that means. I did have some support in like the club scene, but I didn't really get as much like support. I had won a competition. I was a title holder, and I had got asked to judge the next year, but didn't really get any shows, didn't get any booking. And I had noticed that when there was other AFAB artists, even drag kings and drag queens, they were not getting as much scene in that. So that's kind of my experience, and I think now Portland's become a lot better. There's before COVID, there was some shows that were coming up that was really incorporating a very diverse cast of all different kinds of people. As for like my mom, I think she supports my drag and she gets it, but I don't. I haven't really seen her in a couple years, so it's kind of like there's that kind of disconnect. And but my dad is a really big supporter. He actually helped me make my ribbon wig that some of people may have seen. He's very much supportive. We've gone Goodwill shopping for drag. He's gone to my drag shows with me numerous amounts of time, and he's always like, your makeup is getting so much better, and he's very proud of me, and that's really nice to have that support. And I have a very supportive partner who's gone to my shows, who has just been really supportive. So getting into support in the community, let's talk about gatekeeping in the drag community. So the drag scene has been very dominated by cisgender men in the community, even though POC trans women actually created drag. I think a lot of people kind of forget that or don't realize that, but that is a really huge thing I think that should be talked about with drag, and that there shouldn't be any gatekeeping, because I think it was kind of the intention of to break those social norms. And so I wanted to talk about our experiences in gatekeeping, if we had any of those experiences. I know I kind of touched base a little bit of mine. Krem, have you had any experiences in your time of doing drag? Kind of a heavy topic.
I was really, really lucky. I consider myself extremely lucky because, like I said, I did start drag, though I'm in LA now. I did start drag in San Francisco. So I would commute to San Francisco like every weekend to go see drag. And like when I Googled, like, can women be drag queens, the majority of the women that did do drag were in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think quite a few of them have retired, but by the time that I like started, they were like kind of just like winding down. So I got to meet a lot of them. So many of them had been doing drag for like 20 years or more.
Wow.
Like there was a club, which I will not name, in San Francisco, that had a really, really long running show. It's now like at Oasis is like the club now, but if you like Google it before, you'll see. But like it was like a really, really long running show in San Francisco. They had been a part of that show for years. Like they already existed. Nobody cared that I was a woman. Like as long as I was just like entertaining or like looked good, they didn't really care. Like it wasn't like a huge issue at all. Yeah, I didn't really come into like any gatekeeping until I like started gaining popularity online, and people are like blah blah blah, like women can't do drag. I get the messages, like the comments.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those tweets.
Put them on a t-shirt. But yeah, it's just I didn't really get any of that stuff until like I started gaining the popularity online. So I was really lucky. I consider myself really lucky that San Francisco was always and has always been so diverse and different and alternative, quote unquote, is what like their drag scene used to be called, which is like, now every drag scene is like kind of alternative.
Yeah.
But they were like super like welcoming, super cool. Online, of course, I've had a lot of people, but I was so like already emboldened by my real life experience that I was like, I'm already doing it. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like,
you're like, I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, it's
you can't
done,
stop
baby.
me.
I can't do it anymore. Yeah, like I was so emboldened by that time about my real life experiences and having so much real life support, like in my drag community in San Francisco, that I didn't take that seriously at all. Occasionally, I'll come into like something that's like pretty frustrating, and I think as somebody that's been doing drag as long as I have, I've seen people come and go like over the years. I've seen people start drag 5 years after I have, get on these competition reality shows that we're not allowed to be on and like, have all these experiences. And I think for me, now the gatekeeping is not individual people, it's establishments.
Yes,
To the
100%.
point where I have to be like, okay, if I want to continue doing this for a really long time, how can I find an avenue that's going to allow me to do that? So I think right now the gatekeeping that I'm definitely coming across is like those major things and not as much individual people. I don't really
Yeah.
care about that. That's a
Yeah.
speck of dust in the wind, but like now it's like how do we move forward? How do we
Yes.
create opportunities for people that aren't cis men or like white,
Yes.
thin, model
Yes.
type
I'm a plus size
people,
queen.
because it's not even just cis men, it's like,
Yes.
the,
Yeah.
the phenotype. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely gatekeeping, and not just it can be size. I mean, there's gatekeeping, like a lot of people are looking for more of the skinny queens, and not appreciating plus size or POC, different things like that. And so the gatekeeping isn't just with AFAB
Yeah.
or trans or non-binary. It goes so deep, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't that way.
It shouldn't, but it's like so weird to think of that that's like a hurdle. So it's like I'm facing like the hurdle of like being a female that's, doing drag. And that's already different for people. And then there's like the different gatekeeping of like I'm like a fat brown person, like that's also like an issue.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I, that's like the issue that we need to like figure out, because it's like I can have like a brand and I can have like a look, but if I don't fit into what's like the mainstream acceptable version of that thing, it's harder to get to the goal.
It's so frustrating too, especially when you have certain establishments that are huge. I won't necessarily say the name, but we all know what I'm talking about. That definitely gatekeeps a particular set of people and are looking for that kind of thing, and so it makes it hard for someone like you, Krem, to have worked so hard to have an internet personnel and being like, what else can I do? What else can I bring to be seen, to be loved, to be appreciated? And why are we also gatekeeping, skin tone and shapes and sizes and things like that? That shouldn't be a thing.
And to add to that, I see somebody that commented that said, it's unfortunate that these shows are one of the ways to get a promotion or increase your wages. And that's a totally exactly like hit the nail on the head sort of thing, because it's like, how do we as drag queens that have been doing it for so long, how, especially ones that aren't like, celebrity impersonators, we can't go to Vegas and get like a full-time gig,
Yeah.
like how do we get to a point where we can just do drag? Because in my entire 7-year career, I've never been able to do drag alone, ever. As like many gigs as I get, as many like paid opportunities and promotions and, Instagram BS, like all this kind of stuff. Like it's never going to be an income,
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
how do we find a way to like support each other and create avenues for success in different areas that don't require us to be on television?
100%. And I do eventually want to get into possibly maybe coming up with solutions or things we can talk about in a couple questions. But Les, do you have anything to add to this in your experience, or any comments?
I haven't. I don't think I've ever really had any of those kind of things happening. The only thing is like with me, I guess being a drag king artist, and doing more of the masculine drag, and being a person of color, those certain things, can sometimes hinder me from getting gigs, from getting bookings. Um, and so yeah, it could be frustrating at times. Um, but it's just more of like us creating those spaces for ourselves and gathering everyone else who has the same ideas, who have the same mentality as us, to create a bigger space for us.
Yeah. Thank you. Annie, would you like to add anything to that or talk about your experience? Because I know being a trans woman, you have your own things with that as well, especially in the bigger scenes. That's something that can be limited to you as well.
I mean, Melbourne's drag scene is pretty big, and like in general, I feel like there's only limited opportunities for like newer drag queens to kind of get their start and their first gigs and stuff like that. And I'd only kind of gotten a couple of gigs at a club near me before like the pandemic happened and like all the gigs kind of shut down or whatever. But I generally haven't experienced like heaps of like gatekeeping on the basis of like me being trans or like AFAB. Uh, Sorry, I'm not AFAB, but on the basis of me being a woman, um, like explicitly or whatever. Like we've done a bunch of digital drag shows at my local club, and that's been fun. It's more like I find the queer scene in general in Melbourne, and it's probably like this elsewhere, like presenting any kind of femme in queer spaces is kind of seen um, by a lot of cis gay men as like intruding on their space. Like there are gay clubs in Melbourne that basically kind of almost explicitly or not so explicitly like won't let women into the club at all, or like it's even just like the body language and the way you're treated, um, between me being a bisexual man turning up to queer clubs and then through my transition and like I guess just presenting femme like even out of drag, like the way in which people kind of talk to you and treat you in spaces is like markedly different. Like I can almost like catalog the exact moments in which I started being talked over much more. I started like being interrupted in conversations and kind of felt like even like unintentionally, I guess, like treated differently on the basis of presenting femme or whatever in queer spaces. And I feel like that stuff in general, like whether or not like people doing the bookings are explicitly saying no to you, like that kind of behavior can affect like your confidence and the way you kind of feel like you belong in those spaces. And I feel like talking about how, yeah, about how like women are gendered like generally in queer spaces is something people need to talk about a lot more. And that's why I feel like sometimes people talk about there's a divide, I guess, between like uh, AFAB queens and like trans queens are often lumped into like other AMAB performers, like we're kind of seen as like having more in common with like cis men or whatever, whereas I feel much more comfortable in a space where there's more AFAB performers around because like I feel like we live our lives as women outside of drag, and I feel like I can relate to them a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad that your area has a lot more support in that, and it goes to show that there is still gatekeeping in also the queer spaces as well. And I understand that sometimes we want to have just our this and that, but it's like we could still have those, but also still leave it open. Venus, what has been your experience?
My experience has honestly been very similar to Creme. Like I said, I was always very accepted by my local drag scene. Everyone would always, oh, you're so valid. Oh, I love what you do. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't do drag. But then there's also this kind of like unspoken, like, I don't really like talk about this a lot, but I'm definitely not as booked in real life as maybe people would be led to believe by my internet presence. I do gigs, but I do charity gigs. I do a show called The Freshman Lineup, despite the fact that I've been doing drag for 5+ years. I don't really get booked in the main shows the same way that a lot of queens do, even queens who have been doing it less time than me. And Orlando is a very competitive drag scene, but considering that like I've done the talent shows, I've paid my dues, I've worked for free, I've built an online following, I have people who will come out just to see me, and I also have all those other points of privilege. I am thin, I am white, I am conventionally attractive. And I feel like really the only thing separating me maybe from having a higher up position in my drag scene is the fact that I was born a woman. And although the queens themselves are accepting of it, there's always that question of, oh, well, is the audience going to get it? is that really going to bring people out? Like that kind of thing, like that glass ceiling. And like, as a woman, I'm completely familiar with the glass ceiling in every job I've ever had, not just drag. I've had to kind of like always work harder to prove that yes, I am as good as everybody else. Yes, I am as qualified as everybody else. Yes, I do deserve to be paid just as much as everybody else. Like that's not something that any woman is unfamiliar with. So when it happens to us in drag, I don't think people realize like we were expecting this to happen. We came prepared for this. And we're not going to quit just because that's a thing that happens to us. As far as I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, as far as gatekeeping and receiving hate from people, I've never been outright denied access to a show where I live, but there has been instances where, despite the fact that I am very open online about being an AFAB drag queen, there have been instances where I've been booked in other cities, and they love my photos and they love my videos and they think I'm so talented. But then when I show up for the gig, it's like, we wouldn't have booked you if we knew. As though my gender somehow negates the fact that I am a beautiful, talented, popular queen who's bringing a crowd to your nightclub. And that has happened to me twice. And both times, I was allowed to perform. It went really well. And I was told by management that I changed their minds that night. So I don't regret those experiences. Honestly, the only place that I've really received hate or gatekeeping other than those two isolated instances has been online. I've had Reddit threads about me. I've had to disable those anonymous message type apps that people use because I would just get like slews of like hate that were clearly all coming from like one or two people, honestly. But I'm at the same point as Creme where like you can go ahead and tell me I can't be a drag queen and that I can't do drag, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm getting booked as a drag queen and getting a paycheck and that I'm very successful at what I do.
Yeah.
Objectively speaking. So it doesn't really bother me. I try to use those as moments of education, but honestly, I'm getting past the point of wanting to educate. It's more so if you cannot see it by now, I'm not going to waste my time trying to make you see it because it is literally right in front of you.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating to have to constantly tell people and remind people like I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to be in drag and experience those things. So I'm like thinking about someone just being like, I wouldn't have booked you, and I'm glad that that they've come to hopefully realize that AFAB and just women, and I mean this includes trans women, that women can perform in drag and that it doesn't it should never be the reason why you shouldn't book someone. So I hope that will hopefully open doors to other performers, but it's awful that that is still the dialogue that's being talked about, or even like a feeling, So my experience with the gatekeeping, I kind of touched base a little bit on that. I didn't really get booked, even though I was a title holder for a competition in the Portland area. I knew people. I had definitely made a scene, but I also had lost a little bit of my drive because I had learned that a certain group of drag or a company didn't, support AFAB. And that had honestly killed a little bit of my drive to want to continue and to do that. Even though I loved it so much, it had definitely gutted me and made me feel that way, kind of like how everyone is talking about that frustration. It's like, what do I have to do? And I wasn't on Twitch. I wasn't doing anything like that. But I was like, how do I even make myself known in this scene? Like, people know who I am, but why am I not getting these bookings? Why are these not happening? And I know even I've experienced this on Twitch myself. I'm a part of Stream Queens, which is a wonderful team. I wholeheartedly love my team so much. I literally cried with them all last night, talking to Deer and Eve and Elix, just sobbing, being like, I love this team so much. This team has honestly probably have saved my drag self, a lot of my emotional self by having that support. But even then, I don't get as much support as other people have for drag. And I don't mean the team, I just mean as drag online anyway. It's you see that with drag kings. You see that with creatures. You see that with trans on Twitch. It's very much a thing that people, even online, we are haunted by that gatekeeping. It doesn't stop with the clubs. It doesn't stop with internet. It doesn't stop with the people. So does anyone else want to touch base about anything with gatekeeping at all, or talk about a particular experience?
The one thing I didn't mention was that, like, the constant kind of stuff, the comments I will get online about how I'm trans and therefore I can't do drag, or like, you know, generally it comes from like uneducated sources, or that one reality TV host makes comments about, like, you know, apparently because now I have like real titties, that like apparently now I'm taking performance enhancing drugs like it's the Olympics or something like that, and therefore can't be on a certain competition. But generally it's like internet comments from people who barely even watch drag, or they've just watched Drag Race, and they're like, well, so you're a trans woman, you identify as a woman, doesn't that mean then you have to be a drag king? Or like, you know, you can't be both, you can't be trans and a drag queen. Or then they conflate the two, like they're as if they're exactly the same thing. I'm like, no, I'm both, but they're kind of separate things. Even though I have the same name, pretty much the same name now. Yeah, they are different things, but people get kind of confused and like make a whole bunch of uneducated comments without understanding me or like my background or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, generally dealing with like internet trolls and like transphobic bullshit on this website is like, it can be taxing, even though you want to like ignore them and not give them like the attention they deserve or whatever, but like you do kind of experience it all the time. You know, there's always like some troll telling you can't do something, even though it's like you're someone I've never even met before on the other side of the internet. Like, you're not the boss of me, like who are you to tell me that like I can't do drag? But yeah, that kind
She
of
doesn't
stuff
even
goes
go
on.
here, you know?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any thoughts about that? I know this is kind of it's a heavy conversation to have, and I really appreciate everyone for having this conversation, because it is not easy to talk about these experiences and how frustrating they are. Yeah, I guess the next thing is like, where do we think this came from, or is there anything that we think we can do? I mean, I know Krem and Venus, you both said, I don't know what else I can possibly do. Like I see Krem, you're posting videos all the time on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and same with you, Venus. You both have very heavy internet personnel. Like what else is it going to take to either get people to understand? Because drag is supposed to be art. There is no limit to art. When you go to a museum, you don't go, I don't know why the Mona Lisa doesn't have such and such, or I don't understand why this looks like this. You look at it and you take it in. That's what it's supposed to be. This is our art form. We're just using our canvas that we were born with to project that. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that. Krem, do you have anything?
Yeah, it's funny that you say like the art thing, that like nobody goes to a museum and be like, oh, like the Mona Lisa doesn't have this. But the funny thing is that there are people that do that.
Yeah.
There are people that are go to a museum and they're like, it looks like I could do that. I could paint that. Or why doesn't she have eyebrows? Or like, you know, like the whole thing. It's like, and you're like, just like, baby, shut up. You don't understand art. Like, you don't get it. And that's like exactly what it is. That's what the gatekeeping is, the criticism, all those comments. It's like, you don't get it.
You just don't get it. Have you gone to a museum? Did you take art class?
So many people like, oh, sorry. So many people don't see like drag as art, which is the problem. Like drag queens, we see it as art, and other drag queens see it as art. But the general public, they still think it's like, I don't know, dress up playtime for 5-year-olds. They don't understand like what goes into it.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. You're like, you have candy canes on your cheeks right now. Like, you know, like what more do you want? You've done so many different looks. I know that one of them, the blue, beautiful, I don't remember what it was from, Steven Universe or something. I mean, that's a cartoon character. That's one created for like art. That's an art thing. And you're recreating that, how is that not taken in as that?
Mhm.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Les, do you have anything to add up to that?
No, I mean, exactly what Krem was saying. Like, this is our art form. This is our art expression that we are doing. It's what we are feeling on the inside that we are trying to portray on the outside, whether it is recreating looks, um, doing someone else's face on your face. You're still doing it in the way that you perceive it to be.
Annie, do you have anything to add?
Can you repeat the question? I need to like.
Basically talking about what do we think gatekeeping came from, or if you have any solutions with that. We are getting closer to the time that we have, but of course I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think it comes from patriarchy, like, to be honest. Like, it's just like a general. Well, like I said before, there's just a general entitlement amongst cis men within the queer scene that, like, even though it's sad, really, like, when it's like you're an outsider, you've been discriminated against from society as a whole on the basis of your sexuality, to then, like, basically get your seat at the table and kind of become more accepted in mainstream society, for you to basically go at the rest of the acronym, and basically go at women and like exclude them from queer spaces, is like, it's like you got your piece of the pie and like now you're okay. Like, it's just like that general entitlement is where it comes from. So I don't think, like, we can prove ourselves as drag performers like just as valid. Like, we can create our own shows like me and Inprayer did. We can, like, yeah, create our own spaces, which I think is really important, and kind of fight for our seat at the table as drag performers. But until we actually take on like the queer scene as a whole in terms of like their femphobia, their transphobia, um, you know, all of that kind of stuff, I don't think like things will rapidly change or whatever. Like, there's still gonna be resistance to that sort of stuff. So we just need to like, yeah, smash the patriarchy.
Yeah, just, it's hard to not to give up, but I think that's the thing, is just we just have to keep fighting for our space. And it's hard because I feel like the queer scene so badly wants to be seen and accepted and all these things, but then yet we're cutting our people out. We're cutting, like, I'm bisexual, Annie, you're trans and bisexual. That is part of you don't have to be in the LGBT scene to do drag. You can do drag as a heterosexual. You can identify as anything with that and still do that. But it's like we are an all accepting community, but yet we are gatekeeping, and it's really frustrating with that as well. And like you have your piece of the pie. This is now accepted. Cis men doing drag, but yet you're not letting everyone else do it. Venus.
I think a big part of the gatekeeping also comes from the lack of representation, because I feel that especially for people who maybe don't have any non-cis men who do drag in their local drag scene, or who know everything they know about drag from a certain very popular reality show, one thing I'll hear all the time is, well, I just don't get it. Like, and Krem can attest to this, where's the transformation? You're a girl wearing makeup and girls' clothing. I don't get it. That's just called being a girl. You're just playing dress up. You're just wearing a costume. Like, I'm sorry, what did you think that drag is? Like, there's no such thing as a real drag queen. We are all people in makeup and costumes. Like, you're not like born a drag queen. It's
you're born naked. You're born completely naked with nothing on. The rest is you add, and that's what's fun about it. You can add different things, accessories. This is a new one that I got today. So,
funny, like another thing adding to like what Venus said. Like, I literally got the comment the other day, like on TikTok, that was like, "You're not a drag queen. You're a woman in drag and clown makeup." And I was like, "But drag queens are men in clown makeup too."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
What's the difference here?
Yeah.
That
like,
they. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Dola, where are we at on time, real quick? If you can let me know, so I can, if we want to add another question or any other comments. I just want to make sure we don't go over the time. I guess while we're waiting on our lovely Dola, did anyone want to add into any advice for like your younger drag self, or for other drag people that are being inspired by all of us that do drags? I know, especially Creme and Venus, you are, a huge inspiration to a lot of people, myself included. Has kept me in my dark times to continue doing what I do. Creme, do you have anything to add on that?
I think my general advice is everybody's wrong except for you.
I love that.
And it seems like such a like weird thing to say that like when I started drag, I was like, okay, I'm 99% sure that I can do this, but the 1%, I'm just gonna try it now and apologize for it later. But like, it's like nobody can really tell you what to do. Like, don't listen to people that don't even know you. Like, if
Yeah.
you know something exists, it's not somebody else's fault. It's not like your fault that somebody else isn't as educated as you. Like, don't pay attention to what people say. Just do what you want to do as long as you want to do it. It's nobody else's business what you do. Like, in your free time, if you have friends, family, like people on the internet, like telling you that you can't do things, like, literally, this entire panel is an example of that already exists. Like
Women do drag.
and have for decades,
And have.
literally decades. And you can just literally Google it, but people won't. So, it's like if you're not even like willing to put in the effort of like Googling something, obviously like me arguing with you isn't gonna change anything. So don't waste your time arguing with idiots on the internet.
Yeah, it's like it's that one-way conversation. It's like if you're not gonna even try to come my way too, we can't.
Yeah,
we don't need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Les, do you have anything that you would tell your drag self or anyone that you're inspiring out there? Because you're a legend.
Just keep doing what you're doing. Just express what you're feeling inside on the outside as much as you want, as much as you can. And just don't let anybody hold you back from what you'd love to do. And if there are people that are seeking for you to tell them about what you do when they clearly can see what you do, pay me. You have Google on your phone, you have the internet, the whole internet, where you can research everything. But if you're going to come to me and ask me 5 billion questions about it, pay me, because that's my time, that's my effort that I'm giving to you.
Your experiences as well, if you're sharing your experiences and that as well, because we all, this is an experience. Take it in.
But I won't accept payment for this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
But if you would like to sub to Les's channel, it's Lesbiana at Twitch. Just letting you all know. And be sure to do that. Annie, would you like to add anything or inspiration for yourself or others?
I also like money. Money is great. Please donate to the fund to create Annie's Crevice.
Fund that crevice.
Yes.
Thank you. But generally, I would just say like support people from marginalized genders doing drag in general. Just like, yeah, go to their shows. Like, please, like, just support drag outside of that one reality TV show. And like see what other types of drag are out there. Yeah, go support the alternative shows. Go watch us and support us on Twitch. Yeah, and I'd probably just tell my younger self that I was trans much sooner because I would have bigger tits by now.
I love you so much, Annie. I just love you. Just need you to know that in front of over 200 people.
I love you too. You're my favorite string queen. Don't tell any other string
You're
queen.
one of my favorite siblings out there. Don't tell everyone else though. The 50 other people we have on our team. Anyway, Venus, what would you like to add for inspiration for yourself or others?
I get messages all the time from young girls who tell me that either that I inspire them to do drag or that they didn't know that they could do drag until they Googled it. And I guess now I'm one of those queens who shows up on Google, just like when I was a teenager, Googling it for myself. And I saw other queens out there who were doing it long before I was. And a lot of the queens that I originally saw are actually those same queens that Krem was referencing. But by the time that I had like actually started, they were already kind of like not active in the scene anymore necessarily. And I'm very grateful to be in a position where now I can be providing that representation. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be to have stuck with it when I was 18 instead of stopping because I didn't want to step on any toes or because I felt like I would be. If I'm this good 5 years in, imagine how good I would have been if I was now in year 10 at my current age. So that's one thing I wish I could change, and that's one thing that I'm so glad is changing now that whether we are featured on television or not, now that AFAB queens do have a larger representation online. And this piece of advice just goes out to anybody. I don't care how long you've been doing drag or any other art form. Do not take criticism from people who are not as good as you. I do not take any critiques on my drag or any opinions on my drag unless you are as good as me or better, and that leaves a very small pool of people that I will take shit from.
Love that. Sorry, I love that. My voice just, I was emotional from that, and I needed water. So very much like what you had said, I wish that I knew that I existed. I know with my platform that I have inspired a couple people on here, and it warms my heart to know that like I'm doing what I wanted to see many years ago, and I wish that I continued. I had someone that would help me with drag, and they kind of they told me that I had to really be everything. I had to have the dancing, I had to have the extension of the arms, I had to have the lip sync on, I had to have everything. My makeup had to be perfect. When I just wanted to be a messy queen and I just wanted to show up just the way that I was. And if I were to look back at myself or to tell anyone listening that to keep going, just because you're running into those walls doesn't mean that we can't break those walls. That's what drag is breaking down those walls, breaking down those social norms. That's what created it in the first place. That's why it is so loved anyway, because you see people breaking down those social norms. And so I wish that I knew that 5 years ago when I started, and when I hit my lows now, I have to tell myself that I need to keep doing this because this is my vision, and I just want people to know that that's what you got to keep going. Don't give up, because just like what Venus said, if I had continued where I was when I had first started at 21, imagine where I would be now. Imagine if I had continued drag last year before Deer had found me. I'm sure I would be more, and more opportunities would have appeared for me. But this is also your journey, and you can't be upset with where your journey is, because this is just part of the experience. And unfortunately, that is it for this evening. Before we go into our lovely panelists here, I just want to say that drag is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter anything. It doesn't matter what you have down there or up here, that you are valid, that you are beautiful, and that to keep going, because you are absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And don't listen to those people out there that say that you can't do this and that won't book you on those shows. Continue to do it, because it is for everyone. And if we all keep fighting, we will conquer this. I believe that. But anyway, I will be done preaching now. Krem Patel, thank you so much for being here. Where can we find you? On
Instagram at Krem Patel. Again, Twitter, Krem_Patel. I have a YouTube channel that I just started. I haven't posted in a while, but all the content's coming back. So just keep an eye out for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much again for being here. Les. Yes, Les.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitch with my name that you see right on the panel there. I have Twitter, Instagram, where you can check out some of my other drag looks. And yeah.
Perfect. Annie?
You can follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well, all under the name Annie Crevice, no spaces, Annie Crevice with a K. Yeah, you can check me out. I stream from 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, like about 3 or 4 days a week. Yeah.
Venus.
You can find me at Venus Envy Drag on all social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, though I don't use it much anymore, TikTok, as well as here on Twitch, because eventually I would like to start streaming. Thank you so much for having me as a part of this amazing panel.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's really incredible that we have had some amazing people on here. So thank you so much for being here. And also to wrap up the panel, everyone, I'm Inprayer. I stream on Twitch all the time because I'm unemployed because of COVID, which is great. So I stream all the time, mostly at the nighttime. So that's what it is. You can find me at TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's either in prayer or in number 4 prayers. Yeah, so thank you everyone so much for being here. Thank you for enjoying our Stream Queen Con Day 3. We have some people up next. And yeah, let's all say goodbye until Dola cuts us off. Thank you everyone so much for being here.
And